What's up guys, War History Geek here, and welcome back to another new acquisitions video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the items that I've gotten over the last couple months since I began going to college, and it's actually a quite large selection of items. I've been to a number of antique stores, a couple of antique malls, and I've had a number of individual items I've bought online or through friends. So I'm just going to try and get right into it. So the first collection of items we'll be taking a look at here is a couple of items that I picked up at an antique mall back in August. Now, these items are not particularly interesting, however, they were a fair price, so I figured I'd take a look at them. So the first couple items here are a couple of songbooks. You have United States Armed Forces Song Fold here from February of 1962. And as you can see here, it's a complete songbook. And then included in that same little thing there was another song folio from 1964. So I believe I paid $2 a piece for these. So for $2 a piece, I figured you can't go wrong. You can never go wrong with adding original military to the collection. So that was a nice little pickup there. And then something that I cannot show directly in the video because of how large it is this Cold War survival barrel that you would fill with clean drinking water and then use as a receptacle for some kind of waste, whether it's human or food or whatever. And I'll have a picture up here to show you what it looks like. I paid $25 for this, so not a bad price at all for these. They're getting harder to find. The price is going up slightly. And of course, you know, as time goes on, they'll get rarer and rarer and the prices will continue to rise. So I thought for $25 is a very fair price. It's a little difficult to store, so I had to store it in my storage room outside of where I keep the rest of my collection. However, it's just a very interesting piece to add to the collection, and I've been slowly getting into Cold War as prices increase on that, so I can get my foothold in the hobby before it prices me out of it. So that's all for that particular antique mall. Next, I picked up a collection of items at an antique store near to my university. It's actually a quite nice little collection. So first item here, and I can zoom in, is this short timer going home pin. And you can see it's a little dirty. I haven't cleaned it up yet. But I was digging through a random bin. It was $3 a piece for whatever you could find. And I found this. And first I thought it was a regimental pin. But then when I did some research, it turns out that this is more like a souvenir pin for U.S. soldiers in the Vietnam War that would have... that they would have when they were getting ready to go home from tour. Short timer meant that they have short time left overseas on their tour, and they were about to come home. So, not necessarily a military-issued item. However, it's still very cool. It would be a nice little piece for a Vietnam-era display. And for $3, I'm happy to add it to the collection. Now, zooming back out here, we have this ribbon bar here. Paid a couple of dollars for it. It's a Vietnam-era ribbon bar. You have the Republic of Vietnam Service Medal. I believe that's the South Pacific Service Medal. I don't know. I'll have the correct thing up here. But it does have a bronze star. And of course, you have the American Defense Ribbon. So a nice little grouping there. Again, I paid a couple of dollars for it. And for a ribbon bar, I mean, you can never go wrong with that. They make a nice little display piece. And then all of this came from the same vendor. So first here we have an overseas cap. I believe it to be World War II era. You can see it has the original maker's tag in there. 100% wool. It is a size 6 7/8. And I haven't looked up what the piping means. I'm sure whoever's watching can look this up, or I might put it up here on the screen. But again, I paid a couple of dollars for this, so fair price for a World War II era overseas cap. Definitely can't go wrong with that. This here, which I'm not going to unfold all the way, is a World War II era laundry bag. I paid $10 for that, I think. I mean, I saw them sell for about $20 to $30 online, so not necessarily a really cool looking piece to have in a World War II collection. However, if you do want to get a complete display of, you know, what would have been issued to a World War II soldier, this is definitely something to have. Not something that's easy to find because, you know, most of the times they were used until they were damaged after the war. They were just thrown away. So definitely a nice little piece to add to the collection and to make a display more well-rounded. And then lastly here, which is the coolest part of the collection, that I've purchased is the News Horizon, and you can see here July of 1968. This is a grouping from one particular soldier on the USS Shangri-La. So you can see here there's actually about 12 of these shoulder bands here with the name of the ship. And then you have a couple of ranks. This is all early 1970s, late Vietnam War stuff. You can see here that this is the rubberized printed ranks, and then behind it you have the wool ranks as well. I can actually pull one of those ends out. As you can see here, it's a repairman rank. So, nice little grouping. It's all pretty much unissued patches and uniform pieces. I paid $20 for the whole grouping. I thought that was a fair price. I can see a lot of this stuff selling for anywhere from $5 to $10 a piece. So, especially since the ship is no longer around. But that's definitely a very nice grouping. For $20, you can't go wrong with a grouping. I'd estimate it to be worth maybe $50 to $100 if you sold each piece individually. But again, I thought it was a fair price. It was a nice little interesting thing to add to the collection. And then lastly here, which is another piece that I cannot show here because it's too large, is an original uniform. So I'll have pictures up here, but this is a complete original World War II U.S. Army dress uniform. You have the service undershirt with the tie tucked inside the pocket still, along with the matching pants. Then you also have the dress coat and matching hat. So unfortunately, I don't have the dress pants. And I, of course, don't have the service hat. However, I do have the overseas cap here. And unfortunately, it doesn't have any ranks or any kind of identification on it. So it is a relatively complete uniform. I got a very fair price on it. However, there's no way to identify what unit it came from or who it belonged to. So it's a very standard, plain uniform. However, for the price that I found it at, I just couldn't pass it up. So I decided to pick that up. The only patch it does have is the 2 service bars on the side of the arm sleeve of the jacket. However, it is a nice little grouping there. So continuing to move on here. Now we have a larger grouping. This came from an antique store in the Akron, Ohio area. Very cool pieces. And I will get those ready to go. All right, so the first items that we'll be taking a look at here are some smaller pieces. Here is a early U.S. military name tag of sorts. I found similar ones that looked to be World War II era. Now, I don't know if this is World War II era or maybe 1950s. By the time you got to the late 1950s, they started etching plastic name tags like you saw all the way to today. However, back in the 1940s and early 1950s, you saw the printed names on a piece of paper slid inside a pinback leather holder. So, unfortunately, I cannot find a lot of information on this. I have no way to identify who the person was, but for only a couple dollars, I thought it was a very fair price for an interesting piece that I'll definitely be doing more research on. Next up here, you have the USNTS Great Lakes training postcard here. Paid $2 for it, and as you can see, this is the U.S. Navy Training Service. This is what they would have had in their issued bag of stuff. So you can see underwear, ditty bag, towel, the uniforms, the different shoes that they would have had, and I thought that was just an interesting piece. I'd never seen anything like it before, and again, for only a couple dollars, you just can't go wrong with a piece like that. Next here, I have this very, very pretty bullion patch. Only $8. I thought that was a very fair price for a very pretty bullion patch like that. It makes a great display piece. And it actually came unissued with this original tag of the NROTC Midshipman Platoon PO Second Class Type 2, Class 1, Style E. So a lot of different details there. It made it very easy to identify, obviously. And it's especially interesting because I do not see these bullion patches in unissued condition very often. So even though it's not actually military, directly like in combat military issued, it's still a technically military piece, and again, with a bullion patch, you simply just cannot go wrong with these. These are beautiful patches, they make great display pieces, and they'll only continue to go up in value. And then moving along here, I actually picked up 2 of these long unit photos, and they're rolled up. So unfortunately, I'll have to find a way to flatten them out, or maybe I'll just leave them rolled up for now. But here you can see Company A of the 6th Battalion, Fort McClellan, Alabama. And you can see the commander's name down at the bottom. And I'm not going to unroll it all the way, but you can see it's a complete portrait photo. Very cool piece here. I only paid $12 for this, which again, I thought was a very fair price. Ordinarily, I don't pick up a lot of this stuff, but for the prices that I was finding them at, I just couldn't pass them up. So that was the first portrait photo. And then the second one here actually came, it's an original shipping tube. I believe I paid $14 for this one. And this one is a U.S. Navy portrait here. So here you can see Company 211-41, the L.J. Tribbles, CBM Company COMDR, December 20th, 1941, the U.S. Naval Training Station, Great Lakes, Illinois. So especially since I'm from the Great Lakes region, I thought this was a very interesting piece. And again, for $14 of the portrait photo in its original shipping tube, you can't go wrong. It's in a little rough shape, but I still think that it's worth preserving there for sure. So very cool piece there. Again, happy to add it to the collection. And then here we have a selection of Cold War era survival bunker canned goods. And I paid a couple of bucks a piece for these. Here you can see a waterless hand cleaner. The can is a little rusted, but it's going to make a nice shelf piece. Here you have petroleum jelly, 1 pound, from Chicago. And then you have some sodium bicarbonate or baking soda in their original boxes. And I can pull one out here for you. You can see the can is a little oxidized. However, it is still a very interesting brand new sealed piece from that time period. So again, it'll make a nice shelf piece somewhere for a Cold War display. And for a couple of dollars each, I thought that you definitely couldn't go wrong with that. Cheap, easy to add to the collection, and it expands the Cold War era part of my collection pretty easily. And then coming up here, which I thought was probably one of the most interesting pieces I picked up, was this all-purpose survival defense survival crackers. And here you can see all of these details here from the Kroger Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. As you can see, I paid $19 for this. It's been sealed since 1962. And usually you see these sell for about $20 to $30 a piece. So that price that he had was very fair. It's a large brass case. It's a little dented up. However, it was the best condition one I could find. The reason that the store owner had all of this Cold War era survival stuff is he apparently found large stores of them somewhere, has been selling them one by one. So he had several cases of these survival crackers still, and I decided just to buy one tin. I can actually put some pictures up here of the cases he had. Original sealed cardboard boxes with, I believe, 6 tins in each box. So, again, very cool piece. This is a nice piece to add to a survival bunker, or Cold War era survival bunker display. And rations are actually a growing hobby, so the price will certainly continue to go up there. And then the last piece that we have is, again, another uniform that I can't show here because it's too large, but I'll put up pictures, is a I believe it's dated 1960s or 1970s. I can put a picture up here of the stamp inside, but this is a privately tailored dress uniform for a rather larger U.S. Air Force officer. He has 5 service stripes, which is very impressive, so you know he definitely served during the Second World War. And the reason that it stuck out to me was this bullion patch on the sleeve of the uniform. It's a beautiful patch. I believe I paid $20 for the the jacket, and then $20 for the trousers. So that might be overpaying a little bit, but I think for the bullion patch alone, that was definitely worth it. It's one of the prettiest ones that I've seen in a very long time, and I was happy to add it to my collection. And funny enough, actually, I bought the jacket, and I was in a little bit of a rush, so I didn't think to look in that same area for a pair of pants that went with it. So I ended up driving back the very next day and getting the pants because I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I knew I broke up that set. And I didn't have the jacket with me, but I took a guess, took a gamble, and I ended up buying the right pair of pants for it. Matches the material, matches the maker, and it has the same moth damage as the jacket does, so I'm almost certain that I have a match, and I kept that set together. So very glad I was able to keep that together. And overall, just a very cool uniform with that patch. So great piece there. And then lastly, we have the individual items that I got from different people. So I will have those ready to go right now. All right, and I'm back with this last selection of items here. So first off, we have this World War II era rifle bore cleaner. I actually already had one of these in my collection. The canister is in a little rough shape. However, my grandfather was purchasing some firearms from somebody who was selling some, and they found about 5 or 6 of these bottles still completely full. And he ended up negotiating that into the deal for me, so I really appreciated that. But as you can see, this one is in one of the better condition ones. I'm not going to get them all out, but they have them in varying condition from very damaged to a very preserved one like this. So happy to add to the collection. They make nice little display pieces. They're not worth very much, but for original World War II stuff, you just simply cannot go wrong with original World War II stuff. So that's that there. Next up here, these are the best items that you'll see today. Here we have an original World War II German Espit stove. That's right, an original one. So oftentimes, as you'll see in this diagram here, you'll see a lot of the post-war ones that often what reenactors use, and a lot of the times are mistakenly sold or purposely wrongfully sold as original ones. And I actually found this on Facebook Marketplace. I believe I paid $40 for it, including shipping. And it was listed as like a German camping stove. So the seller did not know what they had. And I quickly jumped on it. These sell for probably about $150 in this condition. It would have gone for $200 if it had the original fuel, but with this, I am slowly building up my original set of German equipment. It's in very good, still usable condition. As you can see there, there's the stamp on the inside, telling you where to put the tablets and what to do with it. And just overall, so happy to get my hands on this. I figured I would never get one in the collection because I would not be willing to pay over $100 for just a little stove. However, a deal arose and I jumped on it very quickly. So super excited to add this to the collection. Got a really great deal on it. And yeah, so I might actually be producing a video on this individual piece sooner than later, talking about the development of it and the different comparisons. So excellent piece, great deal. Happy to add it to the collection. And then next up here, I'll clarify again by saying, as it says in my channel description, as I've described before, this channel has nothing to do with any political affiliations of any kind. This is simply a channel for the preservation and appreciation of military history, including both the bad and the good parts. So this here, with that premise, is an original World War II German Nazi Party armband. So this one's actually a pretty nice example. I bought this from a friend of mine nearby, and it is a Bevo maker, or a Bevo style armband. So I can actually zoom in here, and the Bevo is the way that this is actually designed. So I'm not going to take it out of the glass case. I don't think that that's necessary. You can look up examples of Bevo armbands to see what it looks like on the other side, but this is all stitched in rather than separate parts. So you have the original red armband, and then they actually stitched in the white and the black into the armband. So it's actually a pretty high quality make of this type of armband, except this is a low quality variety, or low quality make of that variety. So as you can see, the stitching is very messy. There's a lot of red poking through, and it's not very clean. You can find other examples where it's very, very clean stitching. However, on this one, that's not the case. But I got a very fair price on it from my friend. Happy to add it to the collection. It makes a very good display piece for the World War II era in that German section. And it came with a case too, so it's already ready to go on display. So again, very happy to add this to the collection. It's going to make a great display, or a great display piece. And then lastly here, we have an original World War II German K98 bayonet with the original frog. And I bought it from a friend of mine. It's a very, very fair price. And I actually had to do a little bit of conservation work on it. And I can put some pictures up here for what it looked like before, but unfortunately somebody painted the sheath in a light, like aqua colored blue. So unfortunately it was in terrible shape and I had to do some work, but now I think it's very presentable for a display. I did a little bit of a collector's no-no, and I took the original frog temporarily off this sheath. I used some water to soften up the leather, and I squeezed it off, and was able to remove all the paint. Unfortunately, it was pretty stuck on there, so there was a little bit of scratching on the sheath. But after I cleaned it up a little bit with some oil and got the oxidation under control, it still has some obvious damage to the sheath, but it's no longer active oxidation. And I managed to make this look fairly presentable from where it did before. Unfortunately, this was broken at some point, so that does swivel. However, I don't think that that's too bad compared to what it looked like before. Taking it out of the sheath here, you can see that, unfortunately, somebody took something and dremeled along here and ruined a lot of the bluing all the way down the blade. However, there's still a good percentage of bluing still on the blade. You can see it has the early wood grips, and it's a very early, or not a very early, but it is an early bayonet with those wood grips. You can see here, if you zoom in, the 3047B is the production number, and then you have the maker here, which is the S175K, and then K31 below it, which I actually am not sure what the K31 means. I haven't been able to find any resources that explains what it means. But regardless, it's a nice earlier bayonet with the wood grips. Fair price, so happy to add it to the collection. And it's definitely in a good home now after I've done some conservation work. So that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, and when you're in that area, hit the subscription button and notification bell. I have plenty of other videos just like this coming in the near future, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I will try to get the upload schedule up and going again in the near future. It's just with school and all, I'm sure many of you can understand, it's difficult to balance my hobbies with my schoolwork. However, I'm going to try my darndest to get some more videos out there for you guys. Once again, that's all I have for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!